What up, my mech heads? How's it going? Welcome to my review of the new Gundam Breaker. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Gundam Breaker, you might be wondering, what is new Gundam Breaker? And if you already know and you want to skip this, go ahead. Gundam Breaker overall is a game series that has not been released in America before, but does have some English versions for Southeast Asia or South Asia, where you build models and you battle them. There is an anime series about this. There's a long-running anime series about this. If you wish to do some research, go on Gundam Info. They have all the seasons that you may be looking for. It's easy to look them up. I'm not going to go through every season, but Gundam Build Fighter is what the series is referred to. And Gundam Build Fighter and Gundam Breaker are not even close to the same thing. We all wish they were close to the same thing, but they're not. So the old Gundam Breaker games, which I said were not released in the US, were RPG-based games where you could build your Gunpla, you go on adventures. There was kind of a story, not too thick of a story, and you'd upgrade over time and build up your Gunpla, your model, and your weapons, and increase the stats and all those great RPG elements. Well, that's not what New Gundam Breaker is. New Gundam Breaker is a MOBA being brought to the Western audience, and this game has a lot of ups and downs. For those who are fans of the previous versions, the RPG element versions, Gundam Breaker 1, 2, and 3, this is not the experience you're looking for, and they don't tell you that. So we're not going to get into all the politics and marketing and all that stuff, but this is not the game that you think it is if you're coming in from Gundam Breaker 3. Gundam Breaker 3 was an RPG elements. This is not an RPG, this is a MOBA. So when I say MOBA, I'm talking about Overwatch, League of Legends, Smite, For Honor, many different things. But For Honor and New Gundam Breaker have a lot in common. With New Gundam Breaker, the game is PvE and PvP. You can only do PvP at the moment. Who knows if they'll change that? But you cannot do co-op PvE. PvP is 3v3 only. As standard with any MOBA, you have your trash mobs like being seen on screen. You have your objectives and what to complete, targets to take out, items to collect, parts to collect. This is a model building game, so you are building a model, which means you can build different pieces. You have to gather different pieces. How you get these pieces aren't via rewards for completing missions. It is by breaking the parts off of your enemies or destroying your enemies, picking up the pieces laying around, and then going to the box and turning them in to receive them as rewards. Whatever you hold on to at the end of the match will also be considered a reward, I guess. If you hold on to it and it stays in your 5-item list, then you will also receive that towards the reward screen. As far as MOBAs go, it's pretty standard. You fight trash mobs, you beat other people, and you do it again. The stats are pretty streamlined across the board, which we'll get into later. It is a MOBA. If you don't know what a MOBA is, MOBA stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arena. So the multiplayer part is the 3v3 online. The online battle arena is, this game is online. Battle arena meaning exactly like what this mission is. You're in an arena. It's not open world. It's not, load screen mission based where you're going from one section or one level to the next. You're in an arena. You fight until either the time runs out or until you complete the main objective, and that's it. Where this game sets things apart is the fact that it is a MOBA. And like I said, it can throw some people off. You know, the game is somewhat unbalanced. If we'll go into the plus and minuses for a bit, the game is a little unbalanced, and some weapons are too strong, some weapons aren't strong enough. You don't get a bonus for scaling in parts. So if you're familiar with Gunpla, there are different scales of models. So you have your 144th, which is small, which is like the size of an action figure, to your perfect grades, as you saw with Gundam Unicorn, which can be like the size of to like your kneecap, depending on how tall you are. And they range, like they range, but in this game you don't get different stats for different scales, which is a problem. But there are a lot of problems with this game depending on your viewpoint and where you're coming from with how you think this game will be. So about those gameplay mechanics I was talking about, in Gundam Breaker, like I said, since it is very close to a MOBA, you have your classes, which is something that is where you're either going to love it or hate it. If you're used to a MOBA, you know about these classes. You know, you always have like your balanced warrior type, you have or like your tank type, which is just, you know, even. You have your like attackers, your carriers, you have your range, your damage types, you have your enchanters or support types, and then you have your jungle / gathering types, which is exactly what the inner frames are. They're all sectioned off by those basic ranges of class types in different MOBAs. And your inner frame is your most important part about this game. Whatever you pick as your inner frame, and you don't have to stick with it, you can change it at any given time. You can level them up, which is a whole different conversation. But your base stats for your build are based off of your inner frame. Your inner frame controls everything. So, you know, your inner frame stats, as you see, you can pause it at any given time or go back and pause it. They all have very different stats. They're all made for very different things. You know, attacking is made for breaking parts. You know, searcher is made for gathering parts and moving fast, and ganking, if you know what ganking is about. You know, your gunner is your pure DPS, all power, you know. But you also have skills, and these skills can set off the off balances. So by leveling up the inner frame, you unlock skills. The more you use it, the more skills you unlock, which can help with its weaknesses. So like with the attacking frame, if you level up that one, you can eventually increase the thruster capacity and the movement speed, etc., etc. So it's not end all be all. And then we get into the weapons. Like I said, this is a MOBA, so I'm gonna be saying that a lot because I really need people to understand that this is a MOBA, not an RPG. So with the weapons are somewhat streamlined. There are a lot of similar stats among them. You have one weapon, and then you have a kind of like a sub genre of the same weapon. So we'll use the axe for an example. The axe is one of the strongest melee weapons. So you have your axes, then you have your large axes. You know, like that's the difference. You know, you have a saber, then you have a long sword. You know, you have a lance, and then you have a short lance. You know, you have a club, then you have a large club. So the stats, as I'm scrolling through, as you can see, don't really change all that much depending on the weapon, and including the scale. So if you have a 1/44th scale, which I referred to earlier as like the size of a small action figure, to a 1 in 100 scale, which is the size of, let's say, a regular action figure or a slightly bigger action figure, then you should have a difference in stats. Well, in the RPG, let's say Gundam Breaker 3, the last one that came out, you did have difference in stats. Like if you had a 1/44th scale versus a 1 in 100 scale, it was a big difference. You wanted to use the 1 in 100 scale because it's bigger, it's stronger, you know, it's sturdier. But in Gundam Breaker, that's just all for looks, and there's no bonus at having a bigger build because they have the exact same stats. You can look at any weapon in this entire game, and the stats from the 1 in 100 scale are exactly the same as the stats from the 1 in 144th scale, which it's like, do you really want to be a bigger target on the battlefield? No, not really. You know, like, it's, if you want to be that guy and be cool, but yeah, you know, go ahead. If you want to show off your build, yeah, you know, if you want to take pictures and show off how cool your build is and all the detail you put into it, yeah. But as far as weapons go, when you're looking for that edge, the categories aren't too spaced out, and that's a big issue with this game right off the bat. Most MOBAs, the weapons either have their own stats or they don't have stats at all, and it's based off of your character. Every MOBA does things a little bit differently. You know, they're either attached to your character or they're not. Well, in almost every MOBA, they always give you items that you can level up, like in Smite or League of Legends. You know, you go to the shop during the game, you purchase a sword that increases your crit and damage, but it doesn't physically show up on your character, but it gives you those extra stats, right? In this game, you physically hold that weapon and it gives you those stats, and you can't increase or decrease those stats. Those stats are static, they cannot change, and that's something that turned off a lot of people, because in the RPG element side, you could increase those stats. You could add element to them. You know, you could add fire, ice, lightning, wind. You could, you know, make it stronger by taking other, you know, extra parts. In this game, you only get one item of each kit. And I'll go into that into a little bit more detail in a bit, but you only get one item. And after you have that item, if you get another one, you have to sell it for cash. So weapons, they're there, but it's kind of just pick the one you like the most, to be honest. But that's just my opinion. Alright, so like I was saying before, let's get into the parts and stats. I might rant a little bit here. Sorry in advance. So you see they show that book on the right, that magazine, that's Gundam Breaker 3's cover. For parts, we're going to go into the library first, because this is something that I just found very odd. So as though the models look beautiful, you know, they put a lot of detail into this game. The dev team did a great job as far as like the looks and the feel of the game and the scaling and stuff like that. I'm just curious about the stats. But when you look at the parts, remember how I said you can only get one part and that's it? Well, in the other game, Gundam Breaker 3, and I hate to reference it, but it's the only other game in the series that I can reference. In Gundam Breaker 3, you had stats. You could get the parts as many times as you wanted, because each part had different stats on it. It had like different attack, different, you know, critical power, maybe elements. In this game, you don't have that. In this game, it's you get the part once and that's it. You don't need any more parts. So once you have the part, it's automatically sold out in the library. And the library is kind of like your shop. So if you unlock, let's say you get a part for Wing Gundam out in a mission, well, you can then go to the library, and if you have, you know, the credits, you can just purchase the whole kit. And if you want to go through and see how many parts, how many builds and kits there are, go ahead, you can pause at any time, you can go back. But that's kind of how this game works. So there are no stats shown in the library mode, which I thought there would be stats shown, since all the parts have pretty much the same stats. And then it also goes into some very odd things that I kind of just can't wrap my head around. So from Gundam Build Fighters, you have the custom version of Burning Gundam that was in there, that was used by one of the main characters, or by the main character. And it's like, okay, you have Star Burning, and you have like the weapons, you have the parts, you have the skills that are attached to the parts, but where's God Gundam? You know, where's Burning Gundam? Like, you have Shining Gundam, you have Rising Gundam, And you have these Gundams, and I use these two as an example. So like Shining Gundam doesn't have a weapon. Its weapons are tied into its abilities. The Shining Saber. If you know G Gundam, or if you've watched it, you know that Mobile Fighter G Gundam was about fighting type mobile suits, hand-to-hand combat type of mobile suits, martial arts. So for me, I love that. But in this game, if you build like that, which I'll even show some gameplay later after I'm done with this segment, or the next segment, actually the next segment, like you can't do that. Like you can, but you can't. So like each part doesn't have a difference between the size, and it doesn't have different stats between the size. So you're kind of forced to just play with whatever you're playing with and deal with the consequences. So far, where I am at this moment in the game, I have not found my two favorite Gundams, which is God or Burning Gundam and Master Gundam. So getting back into the assembly for the setup, you're going to see that all the parts have similar stats, and certain stats are also based on the part. So like, even though the scaling is different, which I was talking about earlier, the stats are all the same. Like if you want the highest defense, you just pick either Death Scythe or Blitz Gundam. Death Scythe and Blitz Gundam have the exact same stats. They also have the highest defense in the game. For two Gundams to be completely different from two different series, they have the exact same stats, which is weird. A lot of mobile suits and Gundams in this game, parts have very similar stats. Like as you see, I'm just quickly scrolling through and just showing you. I'll even show you the difference between the Blitz Gundam. Like Blitz Gundam 1/100 scale and 1/44 scale literally have the same stats, and that's so bothering, because it's like, when you're thinking about playing this game and you're like, okay, so like stats matter, inner frame matters the most, and then whatever is on top, you kind of build on top for extra stats. It's like, okay, so you're thinking variety. There are over 113 kits in this game, because they said they're going to be releasing new kits every week. It's like, why are they all generally the same? Like they're not even categorized. Like you don't know what's light, medium, or heavy. You kind of just have to guess. Or if you have knowledge of Gundam, then you can go, oh well, this should have been heavy, so let me see if it has more defense. Then you find out it doesn't, and you're like, what? Like, how did they categorize these sections for the parts for the head, chest, arms, and legs? And where did they get the grouping from? Like I said, sorry if this sounds like a rant. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. But, for certain parts, you want to make something that looks cool, that's unique, that stands out. And you want the stats to back it up, because you're out on the battlefield. You want to keep your parts because those are your stats. But then at the same time, if you pick up someone else's stats, like one of the trash mobs, then you have those trash mob stats. So it's like, it kind of just, it's mind-blowing how they did this, and how very little difference it makes what you put on at the same time, outside of the skills that come with those parts. Alright guys, so for this segment, this is going to be my final thoughts and discussion. Let's get into some of what I was talking about. So, with the inner frames, you can level them up and you can keep them all the same. And this will be like my tip to newer players, or if you're just starting out. Whatever you make your main frame, so like for me, this custom Zaku that I made, became my main. It became my favorite, just the way I built it, the theme, and how I went about it. So if you just level that one frame up, and then every new frame you make or build you make, you just copy that one and then change the parts of it, you'll still keep all the inner frame stats and levels that you went through. But for this demonstration, I'm gonna just go through this one build I was working on. It's ugly, I don't care. I don't care about your thoughts. I wanted to just see like how using a build without weapons would go. So if you know, like I said, like I was saying before, let me get back into stats. The Mobile G Gundam series is one of my favorites. It's one of my personal favorites, especially when it comes to like video games, like fighting games and, you know, RPGs and MOBAs, because, you know, Mobile Fighter G Gundam, if you're familiar with it, was just awesome. So when it comes to it, like, there's no fist weapon. Why is that so big? This is so big because with a fist weapon, you know, you have the ability to fight. Well, they didn't add in the fist weapons to go hand to hand, so the animations are already there as long as you unequipped a weapon. Like, these arms already have Domon's fighting style and Master's fighting style. Like, they're already built into the arms themselves. So it's like, okay, well, what happens if I pick up, let's say, a melee weapon while I'm out? I realized I was on the gunning weapons, talking about melee weapons. But if I'm out in the battlefield fighting trash mobs, completing objectives, and I pick up a saber, well, can I just unequip it and then go back to hand? No, you cannot. You cannot unequip a weapon that you have equipped it. And since you have no weapon equipped it, because say you want to go hand to hand, which I'm gonna show in a second, then you can't unequip it at all. It's just permanently a part of your stats. So for this frame that I'm going to demonstrate, I have no shield, I have no guns, I have no sabers or melee weapons, nothing like that. This is just pure, like, School of the East style combat, you know, like, let's just say, like, you know, basic. So as I was stating earlier, you just can't do it because you can't take off those parts. And at first I thought that was a great idea. I thought that, man, this is going to be awesome. You know, you can switch parts on the fly like they were showing in like their videos and in their streams and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, this could be really cool. Like, so if I needed to, I could switch to a beam saber or a sword or an axe and then go back to my fist weapon, you know, because I already have it in my inventory. That's the idea I was getting in. That's not apparently how it goes. So for other things, like this game in general, it's not a bad game. This is an awesome game. Like, if you're into MOBAs, it's an awesome game. Let's show off some of the attacks. Like, look, they're already here. Like, already there. And it's awesome. But like I said, it's only as long as you have nothing equipped it. So like I said, the way they did this game is awesome. I think it's a great idea for the West. You know, it's not what the fans may want, you know, like being a Gundam fan, it's like, you know, I'd rather just have Gundam Build Fighters. You know, give me something like Gundam Build Fighters where I can, you know, make my own model and build it up, you know, fight other people, have some fun, you know, customize, go through tournaments. You know, you have your PvE storyline, you have your PvP element of tournaments, and you know, if you watch Gundam Build Fighters, it's already a great idea for a game, and that's what Gundam Breaker should be. Whether they're aware of that or not, I don't know. I hope they do know that that is what we want, but as far as it stands right now, that's not what this game is. So let's see what we have. We've broken enough parts. All right, so I'm gonna pick up the saber. As you see, it's not in my inventory and I can't unequip it. I'm pressing unequipped right now. I'm pressing exchange parts. I'm stuck with this sword. I can't take it off. You know, if I pick up this gun, I'm stuck with this gun. If I pick up someone's shield, I'm stuck with that shield, whether I wanted it or not. It's not showing up in inventory. But, you know, for parts that I already have equipped, I can put those on, I can take those off, I can switch them out, I can put on something that's a different scale. You know, it's like, okay, that's great, but this is not what I wanted. And then for other types of gameplay, you may be a person that loves funnels. You might be like the funnel king, where all you want to do is launch funnels. And the hard thing to do about that is that you have to unlock everything. You have to pick up the parts from either breaking the trash mobs, or those little glowing red items that take forever to get to you when you really need them. You either have to pick those up, or you have to go around and break chests, and that's how you unlock your EX abilities. So as an enchanter, your playstyle, your role on the battlefield is to go around, break as many of these chests as quickly as possible to level up your EX skills, so that way you can use your funnel attacks. And then you've got to use, like your guns, you've got to use your melee attacks to then recharge them so that you can use them again, because that's the cooldown time. You just have to land hits, and that will refresh it as fast as possible. So for some, that may be a big deal. For some, that may not be a big deal. For me, it is a big deal. Not like I'm one of those types of people who like just spam my EX abilities. When it comes to a build like this, where I want to, scream out Shining Finger all over the place and use, quotes from Mobile Fighter G Gundam, yeah, I do. I want to use, I want to use my super mode, my shining mode. I want to use my Shining Finger on whatever build I make. I want to have fun. I want to have fun on the battlefield with what I like the most. And they kind of just take that element out of the game. They kind of take that ability to have fun and just, do their own thing with it. Like even now, like this NPC knocked off my headpiece, and instead of me keeping the headpiece that I had, now I have a Zaku headpiece. Like, no, I don't want this trash low-level Zaku piece as my headpiece. I want my my Lupus piece, and if someone else has it and they picked it up and they put it in their inventory, I can never get it back. And then another thing that sucks about getting these frames, well, not these frames, getting these pieces for the different mobile suits and the different parts and the different kits, is that you don't really have an option sometimes. As in, like, one of the enemies might have broken the piece, and it's like, oh man, I need that piece back. Like if my arms come off and I get Zaku arms, and it's like, okay, I really need to use my Shining Finger, because that's what I built this for, and that's where most of my damage goes to. If I was a enchanter type or a gunner type, because I'm doing raw damage, like, I need that part back. I need those arms. And if someone else picks it up, like another player or an NPC, the only way you're gonna get it back is to literally, die. Like, if you don't die and reset, you're not getting those parts back. And I just see it as a big issue. Like, there are ways they could have did this, and I don't know, I'm not speaking on the devs. I'm not trying to talk trash about the devs or, who worked on the game. I think they did great on the game for what the game is and how it came out. Experimenting with a new MOBA style aspect with Gunpla. I think it was a great idea. I think it might have been too soon, but I think it was a great idea, and I like it. But at the same time, it's like, this could be better. Hopefully, if they make a second one, then, it'll be better. Hopefully. And this is a little bit of what I was talking about. Like, these are all grayed out and going to be sold for credits because I already have them. Because there's nothing that I don't have. Like, if I don't have it already, it just gets sold for credit. But it doesn't get sold for a lot. It's like 500 credits for per part. Ooh, when each part in the kit costs like somewhere close to 500,000 to $1 million, depending on how good that part is. So those are my closing thoughts. Like, I love the game. I think it could be better. The storyline is pretty cool. It's got that romantic comedy anime feel to the story. I kind of like it. I kind of just wish that all the characters interacted more. You do have your moments where you get to pick, options of dialogue, but it doesn't really matter to the overall story because whatever you pick doesn't change the outcome of what's going to happen in the scenario, which I think is, kind of, maybe they'll add more to it in another game. Hopefully we'll get another game. I really hope we'll get another Gundam Breaker. I really hope we get a game more like Gundam Build Fighters. But overall, I think this was a good idea. I just wish they had been more clear about it. There are other games that have gone this aspect where they were like, they don't want to tell you what it is because that's a new thing in the industry. They don't want to scare off people from their game by telling them what it is. So it's like, oh, check out our new game with these RPG fighting style elements, and they list off all these different genres to try to pique your interest. Hopefully one of those keywords that they'll say will make you want to buy the game, and instead of just telling you that it's a MOBA, just, hey, this is our new MOBA, because they know like a lot of people are turned off to certain things. It's like, if you hear MOBA, you're going to think, oh, this is a game like Smite, or this is a game like League of Legends. I don't want to play that. I'm not into those kinds of games, and they don't want to steer you away from that. But overall, it's like, just tell me what it is so I can know what to expect, so I can be mentally prepared to jump into this game with this type of mentality, so that way I know what I'm getting into. Like, I want to use these things, I want to use these mobile suits the way they are. I want to say, I want to just run around the game and beat other people online with Burning Gundam. Maybe not Star Burning Gundam. I know, no hate on Star Burning, but just Burning Gundam. I really want to, I'm a fan of that. So I want to take, Burning Gundam and beat people up online in a 3v3 team, which would be technically Gundam Versus. But we're not going to talk about that. That's for another review. But yeah, like, as far as a MOBA goes, most MOBAs you have a character. I wouldn't have been upset if it would have just been pick your kit and go out and fight. Collect parts, unlock other models. Like, the starter for this game is Gundam. Of course, the RX-78, the OG, number one. Gundam, it's like, okay, if you start me off with this and you say, okay, this kit, this 1 in 144th scale is yours. This is what you're starting off with. If you want to unlock other kits, you have to go out and unlock them. Like, okay, so I'd win matches, fighting in a mission with some NPCs. I'd, get a part for a gun tank. And, from the earnings from the mission, I'd go in and buy the kit, 144th scale. And then when I beat the storyline, you unlock 1 in 100 scale, so then you go through it again. Like, that would be cool, so that way I could go online, I have the full kit, I just buy the full kit as a whole, not each part. Buy the full kit as a whole, and then build it the way I want it, and then go out and use it, and whatever weapons I get from that kit, and so on and so forth. I think that would have been a better approach, in my opinion, to how they did this, but that's just my opinion. I'm a big fan of MOBAs personally, so for me, it's like, I can get down with this, but I have to be in the mood to play this, and if I'm not in the mood to play a MOBA, I'm just not going to play a MOBA. And with the somewhat limiting roster at the moment, which they said they're going to expand on with patches and things like that, and rebalancing, since bazookas and grenade launchers are the most OP range weapons in the game for some strange reason, and then axes do the most melee damage. They said they're going to add more and more, and I think that's great. Keep adding, because there's a lot of fans out there. Gundam Versus I thought was a great game, And it was like, man, if they could only add some customization to Gundam Versus, that would be awesome. You know, like make a different game where you could maybe build your own. And look what came out, New Gundam Breaker. So in that aspect, it was like, okay, this is cool. But when you bring up Gundam Breaker, a lot of people are fans of the RPG element side. That was the previous games that they played, that they imported, that they downloaded, and those games were great. They hold their own legacy. They hold their own respect. You know, those games were made. While they did have their disadvantages, or they might not have been what people wanted, they were still great games. Gundam Breaker 1, 2, and 3, great games. I played 3, loved it. I have some videos of it on my channel. But I had a blast with that game. That game was awesome. Like the RPG elements, the increasing stats, the number of kits that were there. You know, some kits weren't there, but hey, they had like a large variety with different weapons, and spending time making your build unique and going through the colors. And you know, like there's a lot of things that people will not like about this game right off the bat. They played Gundam Breaker 3. Like, I can say this one thing and everybody will agree. Like, there are no mantles in this game. If you don't know what a mantle is, it comes from, it's kind of like a shawl, kind of like a poncho. It's like, you know, if you've played Monster Hunter, then you know, like the mantles that you can wear. There are no mantles in this game. So you can't really, like, be cool. You know, even if it doesn't have stats, it's like, mantles are like a core part of everyone's favorite part of the game. And I passed F91 somewhere, because I know I have F91's kit. But F91, not F91, what am I talking about? Crossbone has no mantle, like, which is one of the most favorite things about the game is the mantle, and it's not there. You know, you have the kit, but no mantle. And the mantle was one of everybody's coolest parts about the game, because, you know, you look really cool with that mantle on, with like the cape, you know, whether it was closed or open. You know, even in Gundam Versus, they had the mantle for Crossbone, and in this one there isn't. So I don't know. I'm gonna stop rambling, but yeah, like I said, those are my final thoughts. Those are just what I think about the game. I do like the game. Like, I would recommend it for other people, but at the same time, like, if you've played the other games in the series that are, you know, the RPG side, I don't mix the two. I can compare the two because, you know, they're still Gundam Breaker, but as far as like my overall opinion of the game, I'm not going to base this game off of Gundam Breaker 3, because Gundam Breaker 1 through 3 are its own series. They're, you know, for a specific market. They weren't released globally. They weren't released in America. Like, I can't go to GameStop and be like, yo, can I get a copy of Gundam Breaker 3? No, because they're not going to have it. It wasn't sold specifically for global. This is sold for global, so I'm going to keep my opinion based off this game. This game is good. People may not like it. People may hate it. It's something new. It's something different. It's something that's, you know, that's not very common. And it's something that's in an over-flooded genre. There are too many MOBAs out there, like, you know, like For Honor. For Honor was released with this PvE RPG type aspect look to it, where you thought it was like a heavy campaign and story, and then they were like, yeah, but it has fighting elements and all this other stuff, and it was like, the game is a MOBA, just call it what it is. It's a MOBA. And that's what happened with New Gundam Breaker. The same thing that happened, well, not the same thing, but kind of like the same marketing was like, oh, you know, you have all these elements and all these aspects, and oh, look at the gameplay, and look at how you can switch parts on the fly, and look at how you can do all this and like that. And it was like, okay, but what is this game? What is it? And it's like, when you play it and you're like, this is not what I expected it to be based off what they said. And it's like, haha, we got your money, you know. But that's just the way gaming is going with their marketing. They're trying not to scare people off. They want everyone to play their game. But at the same time, bad marketing leads to bad launches, bad releases, and it overall just not being given a chance. The game is fun. The game is addicting to a degree, you know, and if you're just looking for a Gundam game to play and just to have some fun and just to, you know, break parts and go out there and beat people up or get online and get some PvP going, you can just load in, jump on, have fun, do your thing. But at the same time, you have to realize that, you know, this is a MOBA and it's meant to be PvP only. And, you know, it's not what you may expect it to be, or it might not live up to what you think it could be. Because this is a first. And I want people to keep that in mind. This is a first. This is a step in a new direction. So it's not going to be finished. It's not going to be completed. It's not going to be the best that it could be. The second one might be. They might already be working on a Gundam Breaker 2 for the West or for global. And that could have all the elements and reviews that we're missing in this version. But at the same time, we still need to support it and give our critical feedback. You know, feedback, not rant and go, oh, this game is garbage, this game sucks, this game is complete crap, and then, you know, you're pretty much telling the people with the money, you know, who are in charge of making this game and selling it and putting it out, that you don't want another one. You don't want any of their products, and that's not the message we want to give. We want to give the message of, hey, we want more games. We want more Gundam games in the West and global and around the world, but not like this. You know, not like this particularly, but yes, we do want more Gundam games. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna just leave it at that with those thoughts. Share your thoughts, you know, down in the comments below. Sorry this was such a long video, but there's just so much to talk about. There's even more to talk about that I really don't want to get into, but I don't want to make this a 2-hour video. It's already long as it is. But, you know, let's talk more about this game in the description. In the comments below. I'm gonna try to post some things in the description, some links and some other things, some topics, some discussions, and yeah, I'll be having fun with as much fun as I can have in this game, and with all the details and the paint, the parts, and, you know, the look. I'm gonna try to have as much fun with this game as I can. I pre-ordered it. I'm gonna keep it going as much as possible. But yeah, I'm done rambling. See y'all later. Peace.